Welcome to the Fill Your Cups podcast. We're your hosts, Morgan
and Bailey. Today, we are super excited to be talking about our episode. We are talking about all the things that we wish we had kind of known sooner, or like the adult fails, as you could say.
Yeah, so I feel like the origin came from us being like, what things did we absolutely fail at? And then we were like, that would have been really nice to know.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm really excited for today. We've got just some funny, I feel like stories almost, or like just little bullet points that we're just kind of going to go back and forth on. And I really want to know if anyone else can relate to these, or if yours are more embarrassing than ours and you can make me feel better.
Well, and hopefully from the episode, you are able to learn from our mistakes. So.
Oh, yeah, that's the point.
And not all of them are mistakes. So they're also just little like tidbits and facts of things that we have discovered and think that maybe you could benefit from.
Yes. So are you ready to just get into it?
Yeah, let's dive right in.
Let's do it.
Well, Bailey, what you drinking today? What's filling your cup?
A little bit of water with a little bit of energy in there. Energy
nice.
Packet.
Okay, you've been doing that a lot lately before podcasting.
Girl, I'm tired. A girl is tired. I have to. What's filling your cup?
I have water, and then I have a really rare occasion of drinking some soda. I stopped at Quick Trip. Jared asked if I could stop and get a coffee, and I was like, I don't know why, but a soda really sounds good, and I like never have soda. I got a caffeine-free Diet Coke.
Smart.
Because I didn't want the sugar and I didn't want the caffeine.
You just kind of wanted the fun of the soda.
Yes, but I did add in a little bit of vanilla and cherry, so I'm sure there's a little bit of sugar in those. Yeah. But I was like, it just kind of sounded good.
Yeah,
so I have that too.
It was the movie. Whenever you got soda at the movies, it probably reignited.
Probably. When I go to the movies, I have to have a soda these days.
Me too.
It's an association thing in my brain.
Yeah, I just feel like also you don't really drink soda very often, so it's like you're at the movies, let loose.
Right.
It doesn't count whenever you're at the movies. It doesn't count.
Exactly.
Well, today for our shout out, we want to shout out our mom.
Yeah.
She has been such an avid supporter and such a fun supporter. I always really look forward to her comments and her texts, and I always know whenever we post, she's going to be liking it. And she also went through, last week we had reminded everyone to download every episode, and she went through and she said she downloaded every single one, turned on the auto download, and it's just been really cool. She's been really supportive.
I feel like she got on Instagram pretty much just to support
I think so.
Fill Your Cups podcast. So it's really, really sweet. And yeah, we put up on our story last week, like, remember to download the episodes because we discovered that downloads are not the same as listens. So when you download the episode, it helps us grow, helps us get into the ears of others. And so we were really excited when, you told me Mom told you that she downloaded all the episodes. So that was exciting. So reminder for you guys, if you're listening now, download this episode just like our mom.
Yes.
And shout out Mom. Biggest shout out really because the podcast wouldn't be here without her because we wouldn't be here without her.
No, we would not.
So shout out Mom. Thank you.
Yes. Shout out to you, Mom. We love ya. You want to dive in?
Yeah, let's get into the episode. So I think we were just talking about kind of the goofy things that you do, like adulting fails and things that happen that you're like, man, I really wish that someone would have told me this sooner. And I feel like we had kind of had that convo a couple times in a row, like, yeah, and I didn't know this, and I didn't know that, and did you know that people do this? And so we were like, let's just make a list of those things, see, and offer that advice or expertise or, learn from our mistakes kind of to our listeners and see what things maybe they didn't know or they could relate to and kind of be like, yep, been there.
Yes, I'm excited for that one because I feel like I'm a huge sayer of the, like, how come no one ever told me this? Or like, why wasn't I ever taught this? And so I'm excited to hear, because sometimes I'll say those things and people will be like, you were. Or like, well, I've known that forever. And I'm like, really?
Seriously?
Yeah, and so I'm like excited to hear things that people did know or didn't know, or like even as like we're gonna go through it, I'm excited to hear like if I was like, Morgan, like that was obvious or not.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, I feel like also as you become an adult, there are things like homeownership and job stuff and unexpected financial things that you weren't preparing for or whatever else.
Things.
Yeah, it's like always nice to know what other people have gone through because you can kind of learn from that and it kind of can prepare you. So
yeah.
Hopefully by sharing these we can help prepare you.
Kind of spread the love.
Yeah. So kind of format for the episode, we're just going to kind of go back and forth on some of the things that quote unquote adulting fails or just things that we've learned that we want to share. So the first thing that I thought of, and you will know what this is from, is do you remember when our pipe burst the day after Christmas?
Yes. Oh, that was awful.
Okay, you guys. So in the winter, first of all, if you don't know this, in the winter when the temperatures get below freezing, you're supposed to like leave your faucets like dripping just a little bit so that they don't freeze over. Well, we had a pipe and we did not know that the hose was still attached to it because we had unattached the hose, but you're supposed to unattach the hose in the winter. And we had some contractors come and like do something in our kitchen. Yeah. And we didn't realize, but they reattached the hose when they were there. Oh. Yeah. And it was weird. We could totally tell because they had like their bucket. And anyway, so they reattached the hose. To be fair, it was in the fall that they did the contracting, but we just never went and looked at it because we never used our hose.
Right.
So,
did you also know that you were supposed to do that before this whole fiasco?
Unattach your hose? Yes.
Oh, well, there you go. There's the first example of the.
Yeah.
Well, I knew that. I couldn't. Okay.
Yeah, because you don't. Yeah, it's something about the freezing, but
weird. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, and you also should turn off your sprinkler system if you have like a sprinkler system.
That is smart. I do not.
We have like a built-in one. It was here before we got here, but
really?
Yes.
Damn.
Yes, when we first got Eddard and I used to take him out in the mornings on his leash out back. One time I got totally sprayed by our sprinkler system because they're on a timer.
No.
Yeah, I went out and I was like,
oh my God. That's hilarious. I did not know that. Yeah. How have you guys lived here for so long and I'm your sister and I had no idea?
Well, I mean, they go off at like 5 a.m. So you've never been here then. Oh.
Yeah.
But makes sense. Anyway, okay.
Back to the hose.
The point of it is that the hose was unattached. The pipe that was connected to that hose burst. And this is what I want people to take away from this is know where your water shutoff valve is. Because we did not locate it before that day and we could not find it anywhere, and I was like Googling for like ferociously just trying to find it, and Jared's dad came over and even he was having trouble finding it. He lives like a block away. It's so nice. And we spent 10 minutes trying to find it, couldn't find it. Meanwhile, all this water is bursting into our house from this pipe. Doing water damage into the wall, water damage onto the carpet, all of that. And then Ken comes over, Jared's dad, and finally after like another 10 minutes really of like frantically searching, they found it. It was like behind our furnace. So it's probably in your like utility closet somewhere, but just Google it or ask the previous homeowner or ask your dad or father-in-law to come over and help you find it.
Yes.
Find it now because it will do much less water damage.
If you can find it 10 minutes earlier.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like preventative maintenance.
Exactly.
If you find it now, you won't have to worry about that.
Exactly.
I actually don't think I know where ours is.
Yeah.
Mason probably does.
Yeah. Fortunately, you rent, so you wouldn't be like liable for taking care of that damage if that happened, because that wouldn't be your fault, Yeah. If a pipe burst.
It's like so hard to know because they could blame you for not dripping your faucets or something like that.
Prove it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Because they'll say the same thing to you, girl. I would know. Dang. I've worked for them.
Oh my God. Anyway, so that was my first one.
That's a really good one. And I really like that. This wasn't even on my list or anything, but just spitballing off it of like the preventative maintenance. I feel like that and like knowing a fire escape plan and like things like that where
you are so scared of a fire.
I'm so scared of fire, but I think it's good to have a plan just in case.
Sure.
So yeah, plan where you're going to escape from a fire and plan where your water valve shut off is.
There you go. Water fire.
Yes. My first big one that jumped out to me was just about credit. So credit is a beast of its own, but I feel like the things that I learned the most about credit, because when I first got Credit Karma, I had awful credit. I like really, really, really low credit, like literally in the 400s, I think.
I was about
like,
to say, are you willing to share a number?
It was literally in the 400s.
Okay.
I think like 460. I don't even know. And I remember trying to get my car and I got denied from one of the actual credit or one of the actual places that you, I don't know, like the Hondas and the Mercedes Benz, all those places. So it was, a dealership. That's what they're called.
Okay.
I got denied from a literal dealership because he was like, we can't find anyone that will accept your credit. And then he was like, what happened? Like, you're 19. How is your credit this low? And it was because the only thing I had on my credit was a phone bill that I never ever paid. Because to me, that wasn't real. I don't know. For me, at 19 years old, bills just were not a real thing. I was like, whatever, if you don't pay it, they'll call you all the time. But I didn't think it would actually affect you that much.
Yeah.
Now, I think that most people listening to this probably knows that it does.
You should pay your bills.
Yes, you should pay your bills. So my biggest thing with credit now, while I've learned and tried to just bump it up over the years, which I have successfully, which has been so awesome. But my biggest two takeaways were I learned that you need to be paying your minimum payment by the statement date and not by the due date, because the statements are what gets sent to the creditors and the loaners, and that's what they look at. So even if you're making your minimum payment every month, you might not see your credit score rise or lower, but you might not see it rise. But if you are paying it consistently and however much is due, plus I would honestly say to add on, even if it's like $10, if you're paying that before your statement due date, then you're going to have, like, that's better for you in the long run. Even if you're paying it by the minimum due date, paying it by the statement due date is better because that's what gets looked at. So that's my number one thing for the credit. And then my number two thing for the credit is that if you do have accounts that are in collections, if you can pay them off in full. So like I had the phone right on there, and it was probably like, I don't know, maybe $900 or something like that. And Credit Karma will give you advice on like, hey, if you pay this off in full, you could potentially raise your score by 60 points. Or like, hey, if you call them and you tell them you can pay half now and then half by a certain date, you'll raise your score by 43 points, like something like that.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend utilizing that and seeing what they suggest doing, and then paying off a chunk at a time if you can for what's already in collections. So I know obviously that's not like feasible for everybody, but I did that. I think I paid off my first collections at like 20 or 21, and it made a significant difference.
Change in your credit
Yeah,
score.
huge. And you'll see it like pretty much overnight if you can pay off something that you do have in collections already. Or if you can even make an agreement like with the creditor, because that gets put as a note on your account.
Oh, interesting.
And then it like looks better and you look like you're making those payments and things like that. So that was my first huge one, which I feel like credit rules a lot of lives.
Oh my gosh, I know. Yeah, we grew up in a big like no credit family. No, because honestly, it can be so hard and it can overwhelm and drown you so quickly.
Yeah.
But I feel like once we got into a place, me and Jared, I mean, like once we got into a place, and really truthfully me, because I've always been the one that was not
Fear.
not as financially savvy, and had the fear of credit cards. But once we got into a place with where I was like, okay, I'm comfortable with a credit card, and honestly, you kind of need them to build your credit score sometimes.
You do.
And so, my credit score skyrocketed whenever I opened a second credit card.
Isn't that crazy?
Stupid.
Credit makes me so angry.
Yeah,
It
it's
doesn't
so
make any
stupid.
sense.
But our rule was kind of like, if we couldn't pay the statement balance by the time of the statement being due, then we had no business using the credit card. You know what I mean?
For sure.
And we basically just use our credit cards instead of debit cards, like as debit cards, and we pay them off with our bank account, whatever. But I will say the other thing that I didn't know for the longest time was that like that minimum payment due, which is usually like $40 or something like that, nothing compared to what you have outstanding most likely.
Yeah.
That is so small, and paying, even if you can't pay your whole statement balance, but like your statement balance is what you get interest off of.
Yes.
And I didn't know that. I mean, it didn't matter at the beginning because I was just paying off my credit card in full anyway. But I definitely didn't know that before I got a credit card, that the statement balance is what you actually get interest off of. And so it's like, that is the most important thing.
Yes,
pay off.
it is. I actually think it's crazy. So recently I looked at one of my credit card statements, and because I think I was paying a huge amount of money each month. I was paying like $119 each month as my minimum payment. And I was like, that's just crazy because I'm not even putting any more money on the card. How have I not paid this sucker off yet? So I literally went and looked at my statement, and they'll tell you the breakdown between interest and like what's actually going towards it.
Isn't that crazy?
It was like $14 going towards my actual balance. So that's why I was never seeing it decrease. And that's why I was like, what is going on? So I had that one. And then there was a little note up top, which I had never bothered looking at my statements before.
Yeah.
There was a note up top that said, the minimum amount due is what the creditor assumes that you will be paying every month. So if you only pay this amount, they will assume that this will never get paid off. Like, it literally said something like that.
Ew.
Isn't that crazy? And
that.
so then I was like, okay, top priority for me now is getting this credit card paid off. Like, I'll pause on my savings, I guess, for a little bit.
Yeah.
And that was my top priority. Not that will be everybody's, but that was mine. So then I did get it down to a $0 because I was like, I'm sick of paying $100 a month for this, and $14 of it is going towards my balance.
Yeah, seriously.
Ridiculous.
So annoying. Loans are the same way. I don't even want to get started.
We was like
student loans, especially. Oh my gosh, so much of it goes not to your student loans.
Hardly any of it, like 3%.
Yeah. Well, a probably less serious one that I had that honestly I just was like, probably other people know this, but we'll see. But Jared and I recently learned that, the nonstick spray.
Uh-huh.
Did you know you shouldn't use it on nonstick pans?
No.
You shouldn't use
Wait, why?
Yeah, so because the nonstick pans already have nonstick qualities or whatever, like if you Google it, it's
Oh, I know what you mean. So you shouldn't use non-stick spray on an already non-stick pan.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so instead you need to use actual oil or butter or coconut oil or whatever, avocado oil, whatever it is that you use to...
Does it ruin the pan,
the
or
pan.
is it
Yeah.
just extra chemicals?
It ruins it. Something about it ruins the pan. I ruined a couple of our pans multiple times, and we honestly we bought a couple of pans, and then finally Jared was watching me one day, and I was making my eggs, spraying the spray, putting the scrambled eggs in, whatever, and then he was like, I wonder if you're not supposed to use that. I don't know what made him think that. And then he Googled it, and he was like, oh, you're not supposed to use that. And I was like, oh.
Oops.
Okay.
Oopsies. That is really funny. I wouldn't have known that. I think at first I thought you said you shouldn't use non-stick spray on a pan that is already not non-stick. So then I was like, wait, what are you supposed to use? So I'm with you now. But that is funny. I only had ever in my life growing up and for the past several years of my life, use non-stick
the cooking
spray.
I know.
Yeah, and then Mason, because he watches so many cooking videos and things like that, we only use oil now.
Oh my gosh, yeah, Jared too. Which I think that part of it too is I don't think guys think about this very often, but nonstick spray has no calories.
Yeah.
Whereas oil has 100 calories in a tablespoon. So I think that's kind of why I default to that.
We've been talking about getting a spray bottle and putting the oil in a spray bottle.
I've seen those on Amazon.
I haven't seen it. Really?
I see them I see influencers.
Really?
Yeah.
I think it was Mason's idea, so that must be where he had seen something, because I was like, it's kind of genius.
Watch, we're going to have a million ads after this for those.
Oh, probably.
Yeah, so that was just kind of a silly one that I had that we discovered.
Yes, that one's funny. I think that my next one, and it's kind of a serious one again, but I've decided for my first 3, I was just going to do the serious ones, and then I would get loosey-goosey. But being a renter being a good renter is so important. And I feel like a lot of people don't realize how important it is. And I only know how important it is because I used to work in property management. So I've seen people get denied because we'll do a renter verification. Basically, we'll if you're trying to move into our apartment, we'll contact the apartments that you've lived at before, and we'll be like, yeah, how were they as a renter? Have they ever been late on their rent? What kind of resident were they? What were their move out damages like? And if we had a person that was late 2 times, we'd be like, we don't want them.
Only
You
late,
don't want that?
late on their
Late on their rent. Yep, late on their rent, or your move out damages is huge.
Oh.
So if you move out and you leave your apartment a mess, or even if you leave things in your fridge and then you only have a $50 balance, they have to report that. So wherever you're trying to rent at can look at that and decide based on that alone. And it is it is legal and okay for an apartment complex to deny you.
Yeah.
Based on the rental verification. So I just feel like, I know.
I can't, like, it's kind of surprising to me that they even have that much business to be able to do that.
Oh, girl, apartments are popping. There's never not a day where you're not leasing an apartment.
Wow, that's crazy.
Because people are moving out and moving in constantly.
Yeah.
So I just think that those are things that, I mean, I definitely didn't know that until I had
that job. Probably.
Yeah, become a
because you were never a bad renter. You never got denied, right?
No, but it's because at my very first apartment, I don't know. I think you know this. I literally moved in without paying any rent, and then they were like 3 or 4 months later, they're like, "Hey, you owe us a lot of money," and I was like, "Oopsie!" And I really just thought that I could like move back home if I wanted to, and it wouldn't be a big deal. I literally could have gotten evicted So that's a whole spiel. But I think that is a real thing that I think about, that I'm like, I didn't know that evictions were a big deal. Like, it's a huge deal. If you are evicted, 9 out of 10 times you're not getting approved for an apartment.
Dang.
So, yeah. And I mean, same for like if you're renting a house. And it's just huge. And I have a friend who I think he had to get a full carpet replacement whenever he moved out of his apartment because he had like animals that had destroyed his carpet. And I don't know if he ever paid that bill. And I don't think he's been able to find an apartment since.
Oh, shoot.
Because no one's going to want you. Yeah. So I don't know. All that to say that it is so important to be a good renter. Because it will affect you forever.
Yeah. I think that's a really good tip. The next thing on my list, which... You had a dog while living in an apartment. We waited to get a dog until we had a house. But something that came up in the last year is I had a friend who got a dog, and she was like, oh my gosh, this is so effing hard. And honestly, when we got Eddard, I think I told you this, but I had the puppy blues.
Yeah.
And the puppy blues is a real thing. Look it up. It is serious. And it's so funny because Jared... months before we got the dog, like, we talked a lot about getting a dog.
Yeah, you guys were very prepared.
We make a lot of decisions very slowly. And we read books before we got him and, like, all that. Anyway, so he was telling me, oh, well, you might get the puppy blues. I was like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
And then I really got him. And honestly, it's just because, like, what you see from people when they get dogs is... going on walks and how cute they are and how they play and they're cuddly, and all that stuff and all the cute stuff because they're adorable and they're sweet and you love them so much and whatever. Yeah. But what you don't see is potty training, and you don't see how you have to like come home in the middle of the day, and you don't see how defiant they are when you call them and they don't come to you, and you don't see the pulling on the leash when you take them on walks and how you have to train them on that. You don't see them barking and like all this stuff.
The big vet bills.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even think of that. But yeah, I mean, honestly... Yeah, that would have been a lot harder if we had gotten him when we were younger, to be honest. Because, sometimes you're spending hundreds of dollars on your dog.
Even on, like, their first checkup appointment. When you take them to the vet and you want to make sure they're okay, you got to get them all their vaccinations. You've got to get their nails clipped. You want to get them a collar. It's so freaking expensive at the beginning.
Gosh, so expensive. Yeah, you have to get them, if you want to like crate train them, those are expensive. If you want to get them a bed, if you want to get them a bed for, if you have a house, we got him a bed for one area of the house and then another area of the house. Yeah. And then you have to get them a water bowl, a food bowl. You've the water and the food. Okay, not the water. The food is expensive, especially if you get, like, Eddard's a medium large dog, but he, I mean, obviously eats quite a bit of food. He's
grown boy.
The treats, the leash, the harness, all of the things. It is so freaking hard, and there's hair everywhere if you don't get like one of the non-shedding ones.
I wish that the camera could see. Hold on.
The Eddard's hair is all over our microphone.
We can take that part out, but I just think that's hilarious. I like looked down as you said that. I was like, it's everywhere.
It really is everywhere. And honestly, that is the least of my worries. The hair does not bother me. Some people it really bothers, and in that case, get one of the ones that don't shed.
Yeah.
But overall, just owning a dog, and especially at the beginning, is so hard. Like, I remember coming home from work in the middle of the day. I would come home for lunch, so I would drive like 15, 20 it's like a 20-minute drive home from where I worked. I would drive home for 20 minutes, and I would only want to take like an hour lunch break max. So I'd drive home for 20 minutes. Usually I'd scarf down my lunch in the car if I could, because the 20 minutes that I was home, I wanted to like be able to sit with him, you know, tell him what to do and like reward him if he did it. And then I would have to leave, and it was a 20-minute drive back. So I really only had like 20 minutes. And I just remember sometimes over that lunch break, I would be there and I'd be like, I don't know what to do. Or he'd be like looking at me and I'd be crying and I'd be like, I don't know what you want. And like when they're young, you're so worried they're gonna like tear something up or poop somewhere or whatever. So you have to keep your eyes on them all the time. So you just never feel like you can settle.
Yeah, absolutely. And you guys waited until you had a house. Can you imagine doing that in an apartment?
No.
It's awful. We got Waylon when I was still in an apartment. And I love Waylon so much. But I have told so many people after we got Waylon, I was like, just wait. Don't get a dog. Just wait, because you have to.
He's big.
He's big. He's a big boy. And I love him so much. But taking him inside and outside so often, and he is not good with other animals, which the shelter lied to us about. So that was a bummer. Ugh. But it makes me happy, because then we wouldn't have gotten Waylon. So I am glad that we have him still. Even though he's not good with dogs, it's okay. But it just adds so much. And then you also have to think about the pet rent and things like that. Or like, I couldn't just go stay the night at Mason's anymore, because I'd be like, I got this huge ass dog at home. I gotta go be with this dog. And I just think about it now, and I'm like, first of all, it was like such a disservice to the dog to make him live in the apartment. And so it's so much harder than people think that it is. And like you said, it looks so nice all the time, but then you have the stuff behind the scenes that is hard.
Yeah, that's really my big point. And so maybe if that's not for you, maybe you get a cat. Maybe you get a really, really non-high maintenance dog. I don't know if they exist, but
or you just wait a while until you feel like your life like calls for it. Our friend Shaylin, she always talks about, she's like, I really want a dog, and I'm like, oh, why don't you get one? And she's like, well, I'm never home, it would be really unfair to the dog. And I'm like, I'm proud of you. So proud of you, because I would cave easily if I was just like a girl living on my own in an apartment being like, woohoo! But I'm like, don't do it, because I know what it's like. No, that's a good one. That's a good one. The next one on mine, I recently discovered this. Rocket Money.
I've never heard of it. No, I saw it on your list, and I had never heard of it.
I thought you were being sarcastic. You've actually never heard of Rocket Money?
I don't think so.
Awesome. Okay, perfect. Rocket Money is a money management budgeting app. And you know, and our listeners will know that Mason and I budget often, and we like at the beginning of the month, we like to go through everything. And then at some point last month, we were just like, it's getting too hard. We're falling behind on it. We are like, we can never keep up with our actual categories of budgeting.
Yeah.
It just got too hard. And so I was like, okay, I saw a commercial for Rocket Money. Oh. And I was like, listen, maybe we should just try it. Let's do a free trial or whatever. And we love it. It auto allocates everything for you into your little budgets.
So it says like groceries or like,
yeah, like out to eat, like clothes, things like that. It'll auto allocate it for you. It'll notify you if you're getting close to your budget.
Ooh, love that.
Right. It'll notify you, like, if your account is under a certain threshold. It'll be like, hey, you're under $200. Make sure you're aware until you get paid next time. So, like, it just kind of does the thinking for you.
Yeah.
Because
is it a paid app?
It is. So there is a subscription. I think we pay $6.99 a month for it, $6.99 a month, and it is 100,000% worth it.
Okay.
Like I feel like I'm not a huge subscriptions person.
Yeah.
But for that one, I was like, definitely worth it, because it also the last thing that I love that it does for you is it saves money for you. So it'll randomly take like $8 or $9 from your bank account.
Oh.
And it won't do it if you're under like $150. I think it won't let you, but it'll just randomly take like $8 or $9 out and then put it into a savings account.
It's like you're not using this.
Yeah, it's money that you would never notice is gone. And so we've probably had it for like 3 months, and we've got like $50 in a little savings that we've never touched. We've never looked at. We did not have to do anything for. And I just think it's so fun.
Yeah,
so
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, you guys should, especially for people that maybe budgeting is a little bit harder. For me, it's not something that comes easily. So I would highly recommend checking out Rocket Money or just any type of budgeting app.
Yeah.
But just one that can take off the pressure.
I love
just
that.
do it for you, right?
Yeah, that sounds really nice. We were using Mint, but it's no longer supported.
Yeah.
So, and honestly, it wasn't always the best anyway.
No.
Like, I felt like there were buggy things and whatnot.
It was
Maybe
such a
that's why not-
startup.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. So, I will definitely look into that.
You should.
Also, on the financial train, I feel like we're talking about a lot about finances
Dude,
today.
that's so many things that people don't tell you.
Seriously. But one of the things that we have gotten, like, major adult fail is we have owed major taxes a couple of times, like thousands of dollars. I think I've told you this.
Yes.
And so I guess my point would just be to make sure that when you are doing your like W-2 and doing your withholdings and all that, just really be thorough. Don't trust someone else to take care of it because nobody else cares as much about your finances as you do.
Yeah, I also feel like a lot of people don't actually know what they're doing.
Yeah, so seriously, you can literally Google it, like tax calculator or whatever, and you just need to go through the process of putting in your income, putting in your spouse's income, seeing what you guys need to withhold, and actually making that change. Because the 2 times that we got in big trouble with it, the first time was when, so we were students, and we went from making the money of
student amount.
students, so part-time jobs and grants and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So like $30,000 total together, and then we both got full-time jobs making like, you know,
More than
middle
30,000.
income salary.
Yeah.
And when we did that, obviously we switched tax brackets and we did not change our withholdings. I don't know why our new employers did not, neither of them told us.
Dude, they don't tell you. I don't think they're just allowed to.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to like coach someone through filling out their taxes.
What?
Yeah, it's an employer thing.
Ew.
I ask every single one of my employers, I'm like, wait, do you guys know what I put? And they're like, I'm actually not allowed to help you. And I'm like,
Okay.
fine.
Stupid.
Yes, that's why.
Well, anyway, I'm sure there's a good reason, but anyway, so that was our big boo boo, and then Jared worked for a startup one year, and it was based in a different state, which usually that's not a big deal. Like we've worked in different states, and I do Jared's mom's taxes, and she works in a different state than she lives.
Yeah.
And that's not usually an issue, but for whatever reason, federal taxes were being taken out, but then at some point during the year, he was not paying any Missouri taxes, which is where we live, and the Kansas taxes that he paid were like a fifth of what he owed Missouri. And so usually they balance out. Like if you pay taxes in Kansas, you get a refund from Kansas and you apply that to the state that you're living in to Missouri. Usually they balance out, but for whatever reason it didn't. We only paid like 20% of what we needed to pay. So we got in a huge pickle with that. And I was like, this cannot keep happening. Because it happened one year, and then the next year we were basically zeroed out. Like, I think we got like $100 refund. That was great. And then the next year we owed again. And I was like, oh my gosh.
It's so annoying because like tax return is supposed to be exciting. You're supposed to be like, yeah. Instead, I'm like bawling my eyes out.
Yeah, we like don't try to get a big refund or anything. We try to just like zero it out as much as we can.
That's good.
But it was just when he got that startup job, I don't think we put as much effort into it. So anytime you change a job, anytime you change the state that you live in, just you are going to care more about your tax refund or payment than anybody else. So you just need to care more than anyone else about the filing.
Yes, I feel like I completely relate on that one because that happened to us this year and last year. It's happened to us both times now. But this year we were like, why do we freaking owe so much? We thought we filled out our taxes correctly. Like we were withholding an amount, like blah, blah, blah. And so same as you being like, we are gotta like stop this. We cannot let this happen anymore. So I went through and I like started doing some research, and I think like all of it is at our fingertips, which I think is crazy. Because whenever you fill out your W-2, they literally, it's like a 2-page kind of thing because the next page is literally instructions on how to do it. And all I did was read that page that they've given me every year since I started working at 18 or 16, 17, however. All I did was read the page. It tells you literally what to do. And it's not like in crazy lingo or anything. It's not in crazy words. It straight up tells you what to do, and we just never read it. I feel like no one tells you to read those. You don't know that you should do that. Read it. And then the IRS website has its own tax calculator that
Yes.
it's free to do. It's so easy. It's just that we never put in the time to do it. But yeah, so great advice on that one. And yeah, my next one, this is where I get into my silly little goofy ones. I did not know this until I was talking with one of your friends one time.
Okay.
But did you know that most jewelers offer free ring cleanings?
So I thought that, but then honestly, we just had some girlfriends in town, and one of them said you have to go to the place that you got your ring. And I was like, I don't think that's true, because I think Hellsberg does them for anybody. Like, I've had my ring cleaned by Hellsberg, and my ring's definitely not from Hellsberg.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I would say, I don't know about that one. I know that I do take mine to where I got my ring at,
Okay.
which I didn't know that you could even get it cleaned there. Like, I did not know ring cleanings were like a complimentary thing from where you get your ring from. And so I had gone like a full year without ever getting mine cleaned. I also didn't know that you should like do that until
Yeah.
I saw them cleaning my ring, and I was like, that's disgusting. It's like black water. Ew. So now every time we're out in the area, because we got it from Shaneco out in Kansas.
Okay.
So now every time we go out there, I'm like, let's get my ring cleaned. 'Cause I'm like,
Okay.
it's free. We might as well.
Yeah, seriously.
So,
Very nice. I have a big fail that I need to share so that other people know what to expect if they have this big fail.
Uh-oh.
But early on in my adult life, I was 21, not that old. Maybe I was 22.
Okay.
Because it wasn't right after
Still
our
a
wedding.
young little baby.
But anyway, when I traveled to New York with the Butte girls, with my girlfriends from college, we traveled to New York, and I lost my ID there. Do you remember that?
No.
Oh my gosh, it was terrible. So I lost my ID, and because I had gotten married like within the last year, a lot of my other documentation still said my maiden name and not my married name. So do that as quick as you can. I waited too long. But so I had no form of identification. And what I had to do, so if you lose your ID while you're traveling and you don't have your passport or something else, because I didn't have my passport, didn't have my like social security card or anything, what they instructed me to do was I had to get to my airport 4 hours early before my flight. And they have to call, only certain people in the airport are specialized and trained to do this, but they have to call someone, and what they do is then they call a third-party line that has access to all sorts of information that's really
Freaky.
creepy. Yeah, but they asked me so many questions to verify that I was who I was. Like, they would ask...
It's like a test.
Yeah, like grandma's middle name, or what was your first car, and then they started getting really nitty gritty, like what was your address this year? And it was really hard because I had just graduated college, and every year of college I lived at a different address.
Oh, that's the worst.
And so I was like, I'm pretty sure, you know, and they would ask even like our parents' car or just like crazy
gosh.
things. And so they asked all these things. And first of all, depending on the airport, they only have a certain amount of people trained in this. And so depending how big it is, it took like an hour for them to even get someone to come to me. And then it took probably like another hour to do the screening. And then they have to do a full pat down, they take all of your stuff out of your bag. Luckily, I only packed a check on or carry on.
Yeah.
And so they check through the entire bag, and then you get like a ding on your license. So
What?
Yeah. So if you do this enough times, you eventually are put on the no flight list.
What?
Yeah. So I don't know how
Oh my
many.
God, you have one strike.
I know. I don't know how many dings it is or if they expire, but they told me that at the time. They were like, you can't do this you can't do this again.
Yeah.
Because
Thank God you
if
don't make a habit
continue-
of losing things.
For real. I swear I got pickpocketed. They thought so too, because I noticed it as soon as we got on the train, and then we backtracked all the way to the restaurant that we were at, and we could not find it anywhere. And I had all my other stuff, and I don't know. I had it in my back
probably
pocket, which
did.
was stupid, but
You don't know.
Yeah.
You shouldn't do that until something like that happens.
freaking don't keep your ID in your back pocket in New York. But
When we went to Chicago for the first time, that was whenever I very first got like my fanny pack bag. But it was the first time I got one of those because I wanted to be able to hold it against my chest on the subway or like whenever I was walking, because I was so scared of getting pickpocketed. And I was like, I feel like if it's in front of you and they have to undo a zipper, like it's going to be a little bit harder for them to get into.
sure.
Because otherwise I would always just have an open purse, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, that is scary though. I had no idea of that. And that's something that I would never even think about.
Yeah, well, that's what to expect if it ever happens to you.
My gosh.
It was terrible.
That's insane. Well, my next thing is also kind of about the government. It's a lot less scary, but forwarding your mail. People don't know that whenever you move from one place to another, you should forward your mail. Otherwise,
I don't do that.
you absolutely should do that.
Yeah, I should.
It's a good way of making sure, back to the credit, that you're not getting like outstanding bills for things, because that's happened to me, unfortunately, too many times. And I would like to admit that I'd be like, what? I didn't even know that this was outstanding. And they'd be like, well, are you still at this address? And I'm like, no, I moved from there 4 years ago. It's like, oh, well, if you had been there, you would have known.
How do you forward it?
Super easy. You just go to the USPS website, and then there's literally a section that says like forward your mail, and you put your old address and your new address.
Okay.
And that's all you have to do.
Cool.
Yep, that's all you have to do. And so then, like, if you're, I don't know, because what will happen is it makes it so that way you don't have to change your billing address on everything else. The mailers will do it for you, because if it's through USPS, it will get flagged under your name and under the old address, so they'll change it automatically for you. Isn't that pretty cool? I know. And that's another thing I only know from being in property management, because we would always tell
that
people,
makes
like,
sense.
yeah, even though I don't always do it.
Yeah.
There's lots of times I've forgotten because of college. Like, you move around every year, or every 8 to 9 months, really is what it is.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of mail out there. But yeah, forward your mail.
I actually have only one more. Ooh. So my last one has to do with the DMV. I don't know if people know of this app. Have you heard of the app QLess?
Yes.
Okay, so if you download that app, QLESS, you can get in line from your phone at for the DMV, and it will tell you when you're within 15 minutes or whatever. And so I will get in line for the DMV at my house, and then for the Blue Springs DMV, and then whenever it tells me I'm like 15 minutes or whatever, I'll just go to the DMV.
There.
Yeah, and then they just take you. So because this was something that I feel like as a kid, it was just assumed and expected that, oh, we're going to the DMV. We're going to be here for like who knows how many hours.
Pack your lunch.
Yeah, and I'm like, stop waiting in line at the DMV. Just wait at home.
Yeah.
And, it's so much easier. So
that's amazing.
That's
I like
my
that
app
one.
hack.
I don't think I knew that you could sign in on an app and do that. I knew that you could go to the DMV and you could check in, and they're like, oh, we'll call you when we're ready. So sometimes I'll just leave then. But then they call you when it's like, oh, you're next in line. You're just like, ah. So that is way smarter.
Yeah, you can check where you are in line at any given point. It's just like when you're at the DMV and you see the phone numbers or whatever, and you see, oh, you're 9th or 8th or whatever. You can do that on your phone instead.
Oh,
it's
that's
so nice.
awesome. I love that one. I think that I only have one more too, so that was actually perfect. But then I do have some honorable mentions from Mason that I want to put in here.
Okay.
But my last one, it's less of advice or it's less of an adult fail and more of something to live by. But I heard this once from a therapist, and I think about it all the time. But it's that thoughts after 9 p.m. are not real thoughts.
Oh, that's great advice.
So I know, and I think about it all the time, because I feel like you're tired, you're ready for bed, your brain might be like working on caffeine alone, so it's going kind of crazy. It's just too late in the day to be taking seriously what you're thinking at 9 p.m. or later. So I will do this often where I'm like, okay, it's like 10 o'clock. I kind of wanted to talk to Mason about this because I'm really ticked off about it or something like that. But I'm like, I should wait until the next day when my emotions are less heightened and my thoughts are actually put together. And then the next day, so many times it happens where the next day I wake up and I'm like, wait, what? Why was I mad about that? And I just think about it. Or even if it's something that I'm like, okay, no, I do want to talk to him about that still, or talk to you about it, like whatever. Yeah. I feel like I go into it with less heightened emotions.
Yeah.
Because I'm at a steadier playing field for myself. So yeah, thoughts after 9 p.m. are not real thoughts.
Have you heard the acronym HALT before?
Oh, I have, but what is it?
They use it with like toddlers, but it really works with everybody. But it's hungry, angry, lonely, and tired.
Oh, yes.
And it's like if you're in any of those states, then you're obviously less likely to make a good decision or to act a good way, like respond well. Yeah. And so it's like if you are in a state of hunger, anger, loneliness, or tiredness, then that's probably not true of like, and I feel like that probably is the case if you're staying up late or something, like it's 11 p.m.
Yeah.
there's a good chance that you could be any one of those things, you know?
Yes, you probably are all 4.
Yeah. So I feel like I could definitely see that.
Yeah, it's something that I just have lived by, and I love it so much.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, so that was my last one, but I do want to give an honorable mention to some that Mason said.
Okay.
Because whenever we were starting this outline, I was like, I feel like I'm brain farting so bad. I can't think of anything. I was like, I can't think of anything. So I texted him, and he immediately sent me back so many responses. So
oh my gosh, that's awesome.
So his first big one was the library, that everyone should have a library card.
Oh my gosh, everybody should have a library card.
Everybody should. We love the library. I love the library.
Jared's mom will hear this and she'll be like, oh my God, Morgan always tells me that, because I am always telling her, I'm like, go to the library, stop buying books.
No, seriously.
I mean, you can buy books, but.
Yeah, you can buy books. It's nice. But then at the same time, if you are a huge reader, like you read a lot of books a month, why would you be spending all that money? No. And what if you get a book that you don't like and then now you're stuck with it and you paid $40 for it? Like that sucks. And at the library, they also have internet if you need it. Mm-hmm. There's lots of like classes there. Yeah. So I think that's a great thing to do as like parents. Take your kids to the library because they're free classes that you can go to and like freaking get your kids and you out of the house. Like that's so awesome. So huge one that he said was his number 1. Number 2, he said making a list through the year that allows you to list gift ideas so you aren't scrambling in December.
Smart.
So you like start thinking, and this is so funny because he literally said this yesterday, like, we should start thinking about Christmas presents. And I was like, what? That's crazy. And he's like, well, no, like not buy them yet, but just start listening to what they're saying. The next,
I do that too. I feel like all of Mason's things, I'm like, me too.
You guys are so similar. You guys are very practical people. Or logical people maybe. So it works well, I think, for you guys. The next one he had on there, and this is inspired by you, is travel hacks with Southwest.
Oh my gosh.
Either getting like the companion pass or waiting until they have a points special
deal. Yeah,
because they just had like a 50% off points deal the other day. No, not the other day, but it was like a month or two ago.
It was over 4th of July, I think. Yeah. And I do highly recommend, if you're thinking about getting a Southwest card, wait until they don't do it at the same time every year, but a lot of the time around the winter, like January, February, March, they will do a period where they are doing, if you get the credit card and then you spend however much their limit is in that time frame, you get a free companion pass for a year. So anywhere that you travel, you can take your partner or your friend or whomever, your kid
you
or
and a companion can fly for the price of one.
Yes.
Basically is what it is. It's like a buy one, get one.
Such a good deal.
Such a good deal. And then, just the points they offer too. If you feel really spontaneous or you're a big traveler, if you can wait until you can see a point sale or a flight sale or things like that, it's very smart to do. And then the last one was that he follows Twitter accounts that post really good deals. Oh. So they'll post like nationwide deals that are going on.
Cool.
A big one that we follow, just in case anyone wants to check them out, is their username is @tracker_deals. And
just deals on what? Like at Target? At
everything, Morgan. I'm talking everything. We got our bed off of there, which we have a king size memory foam bed, and we got it for like $100. We got our bed frame off of there. That's a full frame with the headboard and everything. We got that for like $80.
What?
We just got a walking pad that was originally $269. He got it for $65.
What?
So they just post these crazy deals that businesses and companies have all the time.
I feel like it would be so hard for me to not buy it all because I'd be like, look how much money I'm saving.
It is. I do have to sometimes be like, okay, let's turn off the notifications. We don't need anything. But like we needed a bed and we needed a bed frame. So we turned off the notifications and then like that same day they had things up.
That's cool.
It's crazy. Yeah, one time we got like those Mighty Patches completely free because it was like, I don't know why.
It was just like, give me your email and we'll send you.
Yeah, pretty much. So those were all of his honorable mentions
Lovely.
That I thought were fun, and if people can use or take advantage of those things too.
Jared definitely helped make my list as well.
Right.
His big thing that I didn't say, but now I feel like I should since
honorable
Mason
mention.
got one. His big one was that when you buy a house, if you choose to buy a house, your realtor or your loan officer or whoever will probably tell you this, but we didn't know until we were like in the throes of buying a house that if you have a 20% down payment, which we didn't, we did like a more like a 7% down payment, I think. But if you have 20% for a down payment, at the beginning, there are a lot of things that it decreases the amount on for you. So like there are loans that you can apply for that you can't at 5%, and it's something about like it reduces your escrow or something like that.
Yeah.
But obviously we don't know that well because we didn't have that. But we always heard the rule of being 5% down payment.
Really?
I don't know if you ever heard that.
I always hear 20. But I feel like
you do? Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
but I've never heard the benefits about it.
Okay.
Except I did take a housing class one time.
Oh, cool.
But no one ever talks about the benefits, but I always heard 20.
I always heard that you couldn't get approved for a loan unless you had 5% at least for a down payment. But I don't know. I just never heard about 20 until we started really looking into it.
Yeah.
And then we were like, well, we don't really. I mean, we could have maybe put 20 down, but it would have like really drained us at the time. And so we didn't. And so, so that's just something that we were like, well, that kind of would have been nice to know that was the bar to aim for, because it will save you quite a bit of money. Like that's
20% so much.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah. And that's the bar where things really significantly change for you. So that was his honorable mention.
It's good honorable mention. A lot of people don't know that. Like you heard 5%, I heard 20%.
Yeah.
Other people I'm sure have heard like you can have nothing down with the
zero interest
zero down.
Zero down. Yeah.
So I love all of those. I also just love a good episode where we can just kind of
bounce back and forth.
Yeah, bounce back and forth, just talk about things that have happened, but not have to have it like be a super deep thing where we're just like, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So I love those.
Let us know if you all have adult fails or even if they're not fails, just things that you're like, I never knew this and I wish I had known it sooner.
Yes.
Life hack for sure. Please let us know. We'll put something up on our Instagram for people to fill out. And if any of this helped you, please share it with a friend that it might benefit.
Yeah.
We would love if you could forward this on to them or tag us on social media so that other people can see it and be like, ooh, life hacks, I might need that.
Yes, life hacks, real ones.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for tuning in, guys. We hope you enjoyed our little podcast today, and we can't wait to talk to you guys next week. Cheers!